Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's truly an honor to have you here with me. If you're new here, welcome. This is Just One Thing from Swell. It's our monthly education session where we share one helpful tip, tool, or trick you can use right away. My name is Jenny Vance, and my goal is to help you get the most you can out of your Swell license. So today, we plan to share 5 creative ways to use your Swell license, but I got a little carried away, so you got 6, just a little bonus. And before we dive into those, just in case you're brand new to these sessions or you haven't been in Zoom for a little while, I want to take just a second to go through a couple navigation things, just some housekeeping things to let you know where things are. So down at the bottom of your Zoom window, you should see a menu that looks like this. It's just kind of across the bottom. You won't be able to change your audio or video settings, but you'll see a chat window. You'll also see a Q&A section. And if you put in a comment or a question in there, I'll see those and I'll answer them as I go through. The other thing right next to that, there's a little icon where you can react. So you can put like a thumbs up or a heart or a smiley face, whatever you'd like to do if you want to do any of that. The AI companion, just a little further down over here, that is taking notes for us. And so if at any time you get a little lost and you want to catch up, just ask the AI companion questions and you should be able to catch up. Also ask in the chat and I will help you if you've missed something. And then finally, all the way over on the right, there's a leave icon. So if you need to leave for some reason, just click that little icon. The presentation will end for you, but not for everybody else. Okay, so this is being recorded. Like all of our sessions that we do like this are Just One Things, and those recordings are in your help guide. I'll put any notes or resources that I go over, I'll put those in there as well. So now that we know how to get around, let's just look at our map today just to provide a little clarity and calm any anxiety. So we're on the intro now, and then we're going to talk about some creative campaign ideas. After that, we're going to look at some of your Swell tools and maybe some different ways to use them, some creative ways to use those Swell tools. We'll recap what we've talked about, and then we'll talk about what's next and how to get help if you need it. So normally for these sessions, we dive into the back end of the software, and I'll go through or Brooke will go through exactly how to set up a specific campaign type or use a feature. Today, I'm not planning to do that because we're talking about ideas instead of practical things to do in your dashboard. With that being said, if you have questions at any time about how to do something or what I'm talking about in your dashboard, please do ask. I'm happy to go into that. Just ask in either the chat or the Q&A. All right, so let's move on to some creative campaign ideas. So the first one, we've talked about this in fact, we have a whole Just One Thing on flash campaigns. So we've talked about flash campaigns a little. And generally, when we think of those, we think about disasters like maybe forest fires or hurricanes or governmental policy changes where we have to change the way that we fund things. But they can also be used to fulfill specific needs. And that's kind of what I want to look at today. So here's an example. Here's a current campaign that's happening right now. And this organization, for them, it's mission critical that they have a forklift. And that forklift is an expensive piece of equipment and it just quit on them. So they have to raise the money to get a forklift. And so they've come up with a creative campaign to do that. And then they're also good for seasonal micro campaigns, flash campaigns, it's another name for them. They're good for seasonal things, like right now we're in back to school. So for back to school, here's another campaign where they're selling these signs. If you can see that in the little window here, the little girl or little child is holding a crayon. So they get a crayon and then they get also the little sign that says welcome class of, I think that says 2038. Wow, 2038. So welcome class of 2038, because this is for kindergartners who are coming to school for the first time. Uh, and then the next thing, so moving on from flash campaigns, let's talk about our champions. Who says champions have to be humans, says Joey Dog. And he's right. Champion campaigns don't have to just be for human champions. They can be our pets too. So we have a sample of a virtual pet parade. So this is just a pet contest. This time of year, you might look at doing a pet Halloween contest because Halloween will be here in just a couple of months. So if you don't have an October or a fall event and your events are maybe in the spring, maybe look at an online pet campaign like this one with the cute little animals everywhere. You could also use this type of campaign, a champion campaign, as a way to pit rivalries or affiliations. Like for Veterans Day, it could be the branches of the military, Army, Navy, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines, you get it. Or Alabama and Auburn, of course. So any group that would have a natural rivalry, you can set those as fundraisers in the backside of your software and then have people vote with their dollars to see who comes out on top. Because everybody wants to be number one, of course. All right. And then the next idea I have for you is for tributes and milestones. So maybe this is for special birthdays or retirements or that kind of thing. So there's a couple examples that I put in here. So this is for a wedding, and the person who did this is the founder of this organization, and she didn't really need anything. So she didn't want gifts for her wedding. Instead, she wanted to raise money for her charity, her organization. So this is a good use of that. She was able to put this in her invitation, a link to this page, and say, in lieu of gifts, please give here. Another idea for this kind of tribute is when we lose somebody who's really important to our mission, who's been a great supporter, and unfortunately sometimes those people die. So this is a memorial campaign, and the way this works is they put the Keith's story here, they put some pictures of him with past events, and then the family is able to have the link to this page so they can again put that in lieu of flowers, please give here, and they can put that link in the obituary. But those don't have to be sad. We can also think of these as honor walls. So maybe you have a whole bunch of honorees and you want to tell their story. So we've shown similar campaigns to this one. This is an older junior league Birmingham campaign for their torchbearer campaigns. And the way it works is you set up a grid, a table, and there are help desk articles on that. Let me know if you need help. I will link those in the replay. But so you would click on, and this is a screenshot, so I can't click on anything because we're just looking at screenshots now, but you'd click on the person's story, the person's picture here to go learn about their story, and then there'd be a link there to donate towards their campaign to honor them. In a similar way, this was a camp, and instead of using pictures, they just used names, so everybody looked the same, and each of these little rectangles, these little cells, when you click on them, it'll tell that person's story. So if you click here, it would tell Brian's story, why this camp is important to him, why he thinks you should donate to save it as a donor when you come to this site. And then again, there's a link to donate there. So those are a few campaign ideas, some interesting concepts we talked about. So before I move on, I just want to check the chat, just make sure we don't have any questions. Let's check our Q&A. Okay, looks like we're doing good. So I'm going to keep going. All right, so next up, we have some creative ways. More cats. Elsa, I agree. I have cats and dogs. Thank you for that. So, but my cats don't hold still for me to take pictures. So we have some creative ways to use some Swell tools that you probably have, that you have, but you may not be using them in this way. So we're going to talk about offline transactions, your reminder emails, and hidden content pages. Those are the three things we're going to hit right now. So the magic of online transactions, offline transactions, I'm sorry, not online, offline transactions work just the same way as your online transactions. And what I mean by that is when somebody donates through the front side of your site, it shows up in that amount raised right away. The same thing happens if you enter an offline transaction on the back side. So if, for instance, you want to launch a campaign, but you don't want to start it at zero because everything starts at zero, right? You could go into the back side, click on transactions and that green plus sign, add a new transaction there. Maybe you got a sponsorship and it's, you got a sponsorship check, or you have one that you put on all your campaigns. And so that's a real amount. You actually want to count it there. If it's not a real amount, make sure that you put a note in that little transactions notes section, and then go back at the end and delete that transaction. Anything you put in on the back end, you can delete. You'll see the little X. Click that X to delete the transaction. So if you put it in and it's not a real transaction, my point is delete that so you don't confuse yourself later, and leave yourself notes so that you remember what you did. The other way that this is really a great tool is to use this for your leaderboard display. So if you've got a gala coming up, maybe you've got, again, some sponsorship money that came in. Well, hold that money, hold on to that. Don't put it in when it comes in, put it in at the event. When your MC says, let's check the leaderboards, and goes to the leaderboard to check it, then you would then put that money in. And so that number would just scroll, and maybe it's a $10,000 sponsorship. And so it just goes up $10,000, which increases the interaction and the excitement in the room and makes more people in the room want to participate. So that's a way to use offline transactions you may not have thought of. The next thing is your reminder emails. So yes, they're reminders, and you can use them as only reminders. But the thing about these emails is that they go out to all of your ticketed guests, and they go out as often as you send it. Every time you click that blue send the reminder email button, send the email, it goes out to all of your ticketed guests. There are a couple of things to remember, but I'll get to those at the end of this section. But you could use them. So here's some things you could do. So you could send out to all of your guests or your registrants, because you can call your tickets whatever you want. You can call them registrations. So you could send out a note to everybody. So here's where we want to go. Here's where we are now. Here's who's on top of the leaderboard if you're fostering that competition between your leaderboard participants. So, and here's where we want to go. Just give them a little update. At the end of your event, you can send a thank you with that email, because again, it goes to everybody who registered, whether or not they came to the event. It goes to everybody. If you have next year's date already, go ahead and put it in that email when you send out your thank you. That way people can mark their calendars for next year, because they had such a great time this year. Of course, they're going to want to come, so they need to know when to buy tickets. And then the other thing that you can do, we just saw this used the first time this year. And if you decide to do it, by the way, you're going to need a little help. So reach out, support@swellfundraising.com. We're here to help you. But the thing that we saw them do this year, so there's an event coming up in 2025, and that event is launched, and you can buy tickets for it. But they used last year's event, 2024. They used that year's 2024 ticket reminder email as a save the date for this year, with links to buy tickets for this year. And so what that does is email everybody who registered last year and say, hey, we're doing this again. Here's the link to register. So it's a good use of that. But there are a couple of things you need to remember. Like, one, when you clone an event, it archives the old event. So you'd want to bring it back, and you probably want us to redirect last year's event to this year's event for you. And that's really easy to do. And just also make sure you're using the right link for your checkouts. Don't use last year's checkout link. You want to use this year, so they're buying tickets for this year. So if you need a little help getting that all sorted out, we can help you do that. And of course, you can always send that kind of email from your donor management tool, which is a really good use of that, like Bloomerang or Salesforce, whatever it is you use. All right. So your reminder emails can do a lot more than just remind guests. There are a couple of caveats. One, This is only for ticketed guests. So if you're not using tickets, or registrations, maybe you're only using fundraisers, this is not going to work for you. This is not the option for you because those people don't have tickets. So it wouldn't go out to anybody. So you don't want to do that if you're not using those. And then secondly, use the correct email for the type of ticket you have. So in products, when you go to create tickets, you've got tickets and virtual tickets. If you're doing virtual tickets, then you're going to want to use that live stream reminder email, even though you may not be streaming anything. That's the email you want to edit to send to everybody. If you're not using virtual tickets, if you're using tickets, then you want to edit the in-person ticket email and you want to send that to everybody. Okay. So any questions there? Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So the next thing we want to talk about is your hidden content pages. So in content, when you go to create a page, so you're in setup, you go to content, and then you're creating a new page with the green plus sign. So over on the right-hand side, you've got 3 little tick boxes. There's active, hidden, and show fundraisers. For these, I'm talking about the active one and the hidden fundraisers one. That's what I'm talking about there. And so we've talked about using those hidden pages as repositories for photos from previous years or fundraiser or champion toolkits. But you can also use them to provide VIP access or to exclusive videos or behind the scenes tours or maybe early bird announcements. So when you hide a page, what it does is prevent it from appearing on the front side of your site in that menu, but that link is still live. So what I was thinking as I was putting this together, and I didn't do a slide for it because it was right as I was putting this together, but I was thinking about a scavenger hunt. So what if you did a scavenger hunt? Now hear me out. Okay, so you could run a scavenger hunt where you release clues on a timed schedule. So maybe it's a 4-week thing. And so once a week, you're going to release a new clue. And maybe you even grant the top 5 participants exclusive early access because they're the top 5, they've raised the most, so they get the next clue faster. And of course, at the end, whoever wins the scavenger hunt, you should have a prize for them. So I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it wouldn't have to be. It sounds like a lot of work during the campaign. It's not really. So what you do is you create all of those content pages, all of your clue pages before you even launch your site. But you leave that active box unchecked and you check the hidden box at the same time, okay? So what that's going to do, nobody can access this page until you're ready. Then when it's time to release the page to your top 5, then you're going to go back in and you're going to check the active box and also leave it hidden. You're going to send that link only to those top people. When it's time for everybody to have that clue, then you're going to go back in, edit the page again, and you're going to make sure that the page is active and not hidden. Now, across your toolbar, you'll have home, your home page, and then you'll have clue 1 if it's the time for clue 1. And the next week, you'd have clue 2 show up there. So they'll be able to follow along. And then you could also do something similar with the stories like Camp Sumatanga we just looked at a little while ago, where everybody had their stories, those little blocks, and everybody was telling their story. You could have content pages for stories similar to that, but you release them on a schedule, so throughout your event. And then if this is a champion campaign, ask your champions to promote those stories every week to their followers, to their email list, to their contact list. And you do the same. You promote it on your social media channels. That way, there's something new every week or every couple days, however often you want to release information. There's something new for people to come back and engage with on your site, to keep them coming back, to keep asking them to give, and showing them that give now button, because maybe they weren't ready. It's 3 days before payday this week, and so they're not ready, but they would be ready next week. So keeping them coming back could give them an opportunity and a reminder to do that when they are ready. And it'll just keep something new showing up in your socials also. All right, so we are at the end already. It is already 20 after, so we need to start winding down now. I want to check and see if there are any questions before I move into our recap slide. So any questions while you're looking at that? Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to keep going. But if you have questions, type them in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll get to them at the end. All right, so today we talked about some creative campaign ideas, and we also talked about leveraging your built-in Swell tools. So for campaign ideas, there's one that's not on here, that scavenger hunt we just talked about. And then we also talked about fund-a-needs or flash campaigns, those little micro small campaigns you launch to pay for something that you need to do or when an emergency comes up. We talked about non-traditional champions and fundraisers like Alabama and Auburn, or Joey Dog, or more cats like Minnie Cat, although she wasn't pictured else. We could put her in there too. And then we talked about some tribute campaigns like honorariums, so honor walls, or memorials when somebody dies, or things for weddings or retirements, birthdays, anniversaries. Those kinds of things are great for these smaller campaigns. Then we talked about some tools that you could use. So we talked about offline transactions and how those count on the front side of your site, just like online transactions do. We talked about some creative uses for your reminder emails, and we talked about some ways to use hidden and inactive pages in the content section that you might not have thought of before. So what's next? It's already September. So usually in September, Brooke does a talk on Giving Tuesday. And so that's what our next Just One Thing is going to be. It's annual, but it's different, a little bit different every year. It will be on Wednesday, the 17th, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And it's always well attended, and people really like that one. So we never like to end these sessions without telling you how to get help if you need it. There are 3 ways to get help, main ways to get help. First is to click on the help desk icon in the left-hand menu bar when you're logged into Swell, or in the footer when you're logged into Swell. So anytime you see help desk there, that will open up the help guide for you. And that is open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, even when we're asleep. So if you need help, you can search there. There are articles on lots of things. But that being said, we don't want you to ever feel stuck. So if you are stuck and you can't find the answer, or you don't have time to search for it, if it's during normal business hours especially, email us at support@swellfundraising.com, and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. Even if it's not normal business hours, email us. Sometimes we check it before and after, and we will always answer it the next business day if we're not online when you email us. The next way that you can get help is to join us for our Swell Power Hours. So those are on Tuesdays, and they are at noon Central Time or 1 Eastern Time, depending on what time zone you're in. And you can come and just body double with us and get some work done. You can come chat. You can come pop in and ask a question, and we can walk you through how to do something if you've been struggling with something and you're working on Swell. And if you need some gentle reminders of when that is, or when our Just One Thing is, so you can follow the Swell Space calendar. It's a Google calendar, and I'll pop a link into the chat here in just a second. But you can follow that link, that calendar. It'll send you gentle reminders when it's time for those things, so you're not adding something more to your list. So before I close out, I'm going to stop sharing real quick, and I'm going to share those links that I mentioned. I'm going to pop those into the chat. While I'm doing that, are there any questions that I can answer for you at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, but Elsa's really excited about kitty cats, which I get. Mine is just over to the side over there, but she's asleep, so we're not going to wake her up. Thank you so much for your time today. I know that you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. So thank you, and we will see you next time. Bye.